Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sonic Comic Chaos. I'm your host, Silver1. Joining me, as always, is my co-host, Ian Waffles. Ian, say hi.
Hello.
And we are back, Nick, with the Scrapnik. No. We're starting. I can't leave that in, Ian.
I thought it was funny.
My reputation will be destroyed.
That's okay.
Oh, what reputation? I know. Anyway, point being, that threw off like all momentum I had. Ian, what are we talking about today?
Today we're talking about IDW Sonic, specifically Scrapnik Island, and the it's like the Seasons arc or the Seasons issue of the classic Sonic comics they do on IDW, starting with this one. I think it was like for Sonic's 30th anniversary, which is really cool.
Yes, it is a fun issue, but
and we want to because we were just like, oh, like what should we do next? And I was like, we could probably do Scrapnik, but just in case we don't have enough, material for that, I thought it'd be good to throw in the 30th anniversary, just as a little bit of a, tonal palette cleanser. So
I will say, having read Scrapnik, probably a good idea.
Okay,
because it's fun. Not a lot to talk about though.
Yeah.
But before we do that, we're gonna juice and jam into some comments. So from JES1001, so does this mean you're gonna cover Scrapnik Island? Well, I have some good news for you. But they go on to say, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it because I think it's actually pretty good and doesn't have most of the issues the main book has. I think Sonic's actually written pretty well compared to the clown fiesta pretending to be Sonic in the main story. It also feels pretty disconnected from the rest of IW, which we all know is probably for the best.
There we go.
We'll see if we agree. From Real Broccoli Hour, toaster analogy was amazing. Lol, thank you. I also, when I was editing it, that cracked me up.
Who made the toaster analogy?
Wait, but I made it and then you built upon it. You had the line where you were like, I only make toasters. I don't know why you think you're going to get cereal out of this.
Well, there we go. I'm glad people enjoy the banter.
Yeah. And then this is a long one, but I think it bears reading from Super Hamachi Brother 1. I think the main problem with Surge and Kit is that they're just not fun characters. Like, even someone as intense and brooding as Shadow gets to have a proper back and forth dialogue with Sonic and SA2 when they're enemies. And you can feel mutual respect between them, even if they're very different people. It's fun watching them get under each other's skin and have these battles. That continues into further titles where they're not enemies as well. But with Scourge and Kit, they just have pure hatred for their enemies, and it's not even the fun kind of hatred that Eggman has for Sonic, where he channels it into his machines in various attempts to outsmart the Hedgehog and claim his superiority. Surge and Kit don't really have a back and forth with Sonic and Tails, and they don't try to defeat them in fun ways. Their fights are very intense and dramatic because these characters are only allowed to be angry and miserable. It's just draining. Like, is it really that hard to make characters designed to be rivals fun? Instead of having Surge and Kit be anarchists who want to watch the world burn, why have them be petty rivals like the Babylon Rogues, constantly challenging Sonic and Tails to competition to see who's better. Surge having races against Sonic through dangerous environments, Kit fighting Tails with his own adventures and gadgets. Sure, it's derivative, but I think that they'd be much more appropriate characters of Sonic comic that way. You can keep the backstory and personalities intact, just have them not decide to destroy the world, instead channel their hatred towards proving they're superior to the characters that they were created to defeat. I mean, to be fair, not being fun is the problem with IDW in general, but Surge and Kit are basically the culmination of that problem. And I think, I think a couple things. First of all, well, here, the big thing, the big point I want to comment on this is it's just draining. You hit the nail on the head. Because I remember trying to voice this in the last episode, not being able to get there, and that's the perfect word for it. Surge and Kit in this are draining.
Yeah, because you're just constantly it's a bunch of issues dedicated to them, and it's like every time because here's the thing that I've always complained about with IDW is there's no B stories. Because Archie always had an A story and a B story, so you were never stuck on something for too long. Sometimes they would have full issues, and those were usually really important ones. But if you had one story, even if they were both intense, it was you were switching to something new. Whereas Surge and Kit, it really is just reveling in their misery basically. And like I said, I think that it would be fine if they were compelling, or if Sonic and Tails were entertaining and as a contrast or anything. But no, they're trying to be this really dark story, and their dark story sucks. And so I can't enjoy them for even superficial reasons, like they're saying, because they're just draining.
Yeah.
And I know, which is always why it's so funny when people talk about Surge and they're like, "Oh, I love her rebel attitude." I'm like, when does she ever get to be that rebel character? because like from what I can remember, it's one issue of her like imposter syndrome where like she's just kind of vibing, and then like the most recent issue that you haven't gotten to, but when she returns, like she is more being like her punk self. So I'm just like, I don't even know what you people are talking about. She just is never fun because she's always miserable.
Yeah.
So I definitely agree with the comment, and also thank you for the like in-depth comics. I always like when people really like go in depth. So thank you for that.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, here's the thing. As for your suggestion about like ways to change them to be more fun, they don't. I guess they're not supposed to be fun, and that's why they're so draining. Is like they're supposed to be miserable. Like you're not supposed to. Like I don't know what emotion I'm supposed to feel reading them, but I'd imagine it's not meant to be fun.
Which at that point I then go, okay, what's the message or idea I'm supposed to get from it? And then as we discussed in that podcast, the message is and then we moved on. So so but yeah. So no, thank you for the comment.
Yes. But all right, let's hippity hop right into the comic, into what is it, Sonic the Hedgehog Scrapnik Island #1.
Yes, and this is written by Daniel Barnes. If you didn't, I don't know if you checked that, but yeah, he's like he's done some little stories on like the annuals, but this is like his first like full blown story arc. So yeah, definitely excited to talk about it.
It's very good, and art by Jack Lawrence, which we definitely have to point out because the art in this is great.
Well, specifically also the coloring. So who does the coloring?
Let's look. Colors Natalie,
like Natalie, like Fordrain or whatever.
Fordrain. Well,
yes.
Okay. Okay. Is it Nathalie? Because there's an H in there.
We'll just say Fordrain.
Fordrain. Sure.
Her stuff is incredible. And I could immediately tell that it was her lighting and like coloring, because like anytime she does like the you know like a cover, a variant, I'm like, her stuff just is the best. So a whole arc that just looks like her style, basically. Obviously it's Jack Lawrence, like you brought up, but the coloring is really what I think like brings all of this to life, and it's gorgeous.
Yes,
so...
yes, absolutely. But yeah, let's just hop right into issue #1. So Sonic and Tails, they're out on they're out above the ocean. They're in a storm. They're flying over the plane. What are they doing out here?
They're just chilling.
They're just chilling?
Yeah, I think they're just going on an adventure, which is like, we're gonna get on the plane. They're going for a drive. You ever gone for a drive?
No.
Oh, oops. Yeah, no, I mean, that's what I would assume is going on. Like either they're coming back from a location, or they're just, they're just chilling.
Yeah, I thought maybe because like the whole point we find out is that this storm was caused by a climate device. So I was like, maybe they were investigating.
Yeah,
like,
we'll get
energy.
into that. But continue.
Anyway, so they're flying the plane and they're like, "Hey, is that the Death Egg TM?"
And it is.
Yeah, and so this must be the Death Egg from Sonic 3, right?
I would guess so.
Yeah, that seems to be the implication. It's crashed on this island. And they're like, and Tails is like, all right, I'm gonna try to put us down there. And then they get struck by lightning and crash.
Yes.
And that's where Sonic's knocked out and he wakes up on a table with like his leg in or his foot in like a what would you call this?
Like a brace.
Yeah, like a brace.
Like a makeshift brace that kind of looks like a torture device.
I was gonna call it a vice, and I'm like, that's not right. But it looks like one. So
yeah.
But and that's where we get into something interesting with Sonic and this, more so this first issue. He's very spooked.
And he's very chatty.
He is very chatty. Which I don't mind. I don't mind Sonic being kind of a motor mouth. I know a lot of people prefer him to be like a man of few words. But again, I think for me, I've said this before, but my ideal characterization for Sonic is Spider-Man, but without the neurotic guilt. So, I don't mind it. It's more so
I don't mind it either. It's just more so like because I love Archie Sonic and he never fucking stops talking. Yeah. And so, but I think what kind of, it's not even like terrible, but it's just more so you can definitely tell in this story, Sonic, again, he loves talking, but what he's talking about is just kind of like just saying something very simple, or just saying what's happening out loud, like, or just kind of like being kind of childish, like not like being like snarky, but just kind of like, haha, you big nerd, come get me. Whoa, it's a Badnik, and now it's a Scrapnik. And then like, whoa, you got this thing on my head, man. This is really getting annoying. Oh man, why'd you do it? Blah blah blah. And it's like, well, if I did it, it's like, okay, Sonic, I get it, buddy.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, they definitely, also kind of unique to this scene outside of a later scene is they kind of go for a horror vibe. So what did you think of that?
I think visually it's all very cool. Again,
Yes.
I think something that I don't know how I feel about is Sonic's attitude through it all. Because it's understandable, like Sonic's hurt and he's surrounded by like not just robots, but like gross, like scary looking robots.
Yeah, because his friends for some reason were like, let's leave him in a pitch black room while we like go walk around and do something, and then hopefully he just won't wake up and like be surrounded by monsters that he might want to destroy that we also have an invested interest in not destroying because they're like innocent creatures, and just hope it works out.
They are very lucky he didn't kill any of them. But yeah, so he's kind of freaked out, and it's like I don't really feel strongly one way or another about it. He feels vaguely like movie Sonic, actually. Like I imagine this is how movie Sonic would react in this situation.
Oh, definitely.
Which again, like I don't know.
He'd be like, this is just like that scary scene in Spider-Man 2 for the PS4. So yeah, regardless, we're dealing with that, and then I'm trying to think. Yeah, Sonic runs around. I think this is a really cool visual. I really like that the obviously, there's not usually blood in any of these types of stories, but they can use the idea of like his foot being in a brace and it having rust to kind of simulate like it's bleeding, which also sells that he's in pain. And they use that in some pretty good ways, like emotionally and kind of thematically throughout the story, which I appreciate.
I do as well. And also, so he gets backed into a corner by these robots, and he meets none other than Mecha Sonic from Sonic 3 and Knuckles.
Yeah, he's got a wicked cape.
He's got a wicked cape. He's got a wicked design in general, which is interesting because a couple years back they were doing that whole big like classic modern like split where they were like, no, these are two different universes. So it's interesting to see now this thing that before that we took for granted, which is like, yeah, of course, like this Sonic went and fought on the death like in Sonic 3. Just something interesting. But because like, and actually that's also interesting now that I think about it, because like they're very much sticklers for like classic characters and modern characters, and yet here we have Mecha Sonic, a classic character, but he gets to come back. I guess maybe the simple explanation is they don't give a shit about Mecha Sonic.
Yeah. Well, I think even Flynn said, he was like, some of the stuff that Barnes does in this arc, he's like, I have no idea how that was allowed. So he was very impressed. So yeah, I know I hadn't even considered that. It's like, yeah, wouldn't he be considered a classic character? But I guess, yeah, Sega was like, whatever, it's fine.
Yeah. But yeah, so Sonic runs away, and there's a fun chase sequence where he's skating down, then he runs into who is this, E117 Sigma? Yes.
Yeah, Sigma. So
is this like one of the like the Pyramid Cave like E100 series? Because I don't think he's from Adventure like the first one.
That's a good question. I always assumed he was one of them, but like maybe like some of the leftovers. But yeah, I mean, that's a good question because those were sent all around the world during Adventure, so they wouldn't really be on the Death Egg. Yeah, I have no clue. Either way, it's very cool.
Yeah, well, I had a fun theory for a second where I was like, wait, so Sonic 3 and Knuckles is like canonically, the game that comes before Adventure. Did he have like a prototype Gamma on the Death Egg, and that's what this is?
Yeah, that'd be kind of cool.
Well, but I think we see him I think when we get the flashback of like him arriving on the island, he's like on the beach, and I think the implication is that he like washes ashore.
Oh, that would make more sense. Yeah, so I would then. So from what that would tell me then is I think this is almost certainly one of Gamma's siblings, and yeah, the body just washed up on the shore.
Yes. But yeah, so Sigma's like, hey, don't worry, we're cool. Like, we all these old decommissioned badniks, like. We were like Robotnik slaves and we were trying to take over the world, but now we just want to live in peace and like get off this stupid fucking island.
This is the kind of character, this is the stupidest thought I've ever had, but whatever, I'll say it. This is the kind of character that if he was an Archie, he would definitely have an accent.
Oh, you're so right.
Like they would give him like a, hello, young Master Sonic. Like they would make him British or something.
I mean, you could definitely read him as British. He has a couple Britishisms, but he doesn't go full tilt into it like they would with Archie.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, no, and then we also get to later. We actually do get a nice scene regarding like him waking up. So yeah, I mean, also, I mean, I guess just what do you think of this concept of like a deserted Death Egg filled with like a bunch of robots that are kind of have their own little commune now?
I think it's cool. I think, I mean, much like many things in this comic, it raises questions I'm not sure it's prepared to answer.
Like what?
Well, like, so that like these robots are all like sentient, like if not like human sentient, like they at least have like some kind of like animal sentience, like like they're able to like make a word, like maybe like parrot level sentience for some of them. So it's like,
have we been murdering?
Well, that's the thing, right? Like, and presumably Eggman's newer Badniks have much more advanced programming. So, I don't know.
Look, if this were Archie Sonic, he would definitely murder them. All right, because back in the day, if you remember in the gag era, they could talk up a storm, and they were just assholes, and they had to go. So
yeah.
And also the funny thing in Archie was that if they were destroyed, the whole meme was that like their bodies were programmed to go to the Robo Hobo jungle where they would just like chill out. So
that's great.
It's very stupid. But yeah, no, I mean, I would guess, yeah, it's probably just something you're not really supposed to think about. Or if you want, since they don't clarify, you could just say that like Sigma kind of, because we know that like the kind of gamma robot types, the E100s or whatever, they kind of have like some amount of sentience. So it could be the idea of like maybe he like installed it into them or like activated it or whatever,
That makes sense.
Whatever helps you sleep at night.
Yeah, and then Mecha. What's interesting about Mecha is that he doesn't talk for the first like 3 issues.
Yeah, and I appreciate that Sonic is suspicious of him.
Yeah, well, I mean, like you would be.
It's IDW Sonic. I can't tell with him.
No, you know what? That's fair. But what's interesting here is okay. So the issue comes to an end. We see Mecha Knuckles like hiding in the shadows, and he's like, "Oh no!" Fun first issue. But in the second issue, we pick up. Well, basically, I'll make this point before I forget it. Is that I think Sonic's whole shtick here of like I want to redeem all my villains works a lot better when he's standing on an island full of redeemed like Badniks. So for him to go to Mecha Sonic and be like, "No, man, you were cool. You were doing so good. Like, come on, man. Like, I know this isn't you." Makes a lot more sense here than like when he does it for Metal Sonic.
Well, also, I mean, yeah, if we want to address that now, shout out to Daniel Barnes for being the only writer to be like, hey, if our protagonist has like a goal and a motivation and like a thesis, maybe we should like prove that it works like ever, and like send like a positive message because he's like the hero, like the hero like kids are supposed to. Maybe we should do that. And Daniel Barnes, I don't know what you did to make those 2 brain cells connect like you did, but shout out to you, buddy, because no one else seemed to think of that, and I really appreciate it.
Well, backhanded compliments aside,
that is a whole compliment to him. That is an insult to Flynn and Stanley, if you couldn't tell. I don't know how nobody decided, oh, maybe we should like have Sonic redeem villains. Nah.
I'm just saying maybe we can compliment people without insulting other people. I don't know.
Incorrect. I love Ian Flynn, so it's allowed.
It's fair enough.
Regardless. Yeah, no, but yeah, no, so that's the first issue. I will say, just a minor thing, I do wish like their little little commune or whatever was like actually like a place, because like they show it and Tails is like, oh my gosh, like a city of robots, and I look and I'm like, Tails, that's like fucking dirt. What are you talking about, bro? Like, so I wish they actually like came up with like anything creative to like show that they lived here. And we'll just address it now. I really wish that like I thought that like the thing they were gonna do is that they were gonna bring back the storm generator and have it be that like the storm generator starts causing a lot of problems, and now Sonic and Metal have to like team up, or maybe Metal wants to use that, or for whatever they want to do. But they just kind of completely drop it, and I think that's annoying. So
it's definitely weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, so at the start of issue 2, we see Sigma wash up on shore. And I guess he must have like built himself a backup power source, because I don't see this Sigma like willingly keeping a Flicky inside of him like that.
Yeah, I mean that's the other thing that that was one of the things my friend brought up when you have Motobud, like the little Motobug that what's her Belle likes, and he was like guys, are you gonna free the animal? Is he cursed to live inside that Motobug? Free him, Sonic! Get him out of there! So I just have to assume that that's like not the case. That there's like an animal inside.
Yeah, well, again, the whole thing here is that he's like reprogrammed them and rebuilt them. So
like obviously, like Eggman didn't have to do that; he wanted to do that because he's an asshole. So like surely there's a way to like give them more power.
Yeah,
right?
well, I mean, chaos drives exist, so
yeah, exactly. So perfect example. So,
but yeah, so we see Sigma. He rebuilds a bunch of the robots and he's leading them, and then we see a cold as fuck image of Mecha Sonic just like strewn out on the beach. And then it mirrors on the next page to Sonic just kind of chilling on the beach.
Yeah, which is really cool. They do that a few times where they kind of have like a past and present thing. And I really like the scene of them on the beach because this is where Tails makes the little translator. And I thought it was like, because I think a lot of the Scrapniks, you don't really have too much of a time to get emotionally attached to them. But I thought this scene did a good job where there's the part where like, it's like, oh, speak, little guy, and then it says like hello, and then as if they were like little kids who like have like a new toy, they like all come up to Tails and are like, oh, hello, like they want to hear their voice back, And I thought that was really cute and like really nice.
God, do you think Sonic is gonna like feel bad when he goes back home and he has to like keep destroying Badniks?
No.
Fair enough.
They'll say big oof.
Actually, now that I think about it. For this
Stop
version,
thinking. Stop it.
No, I gotta keep thinking. We don't have a podcast if I stop thinking. For this version of Sonic, what separates Metal Sonic from like an egg pawn? Like, why is Sonic so gung ho about like, oh, Metal Sonic, I believe in you. I don't want to destroy you. There's good in you. But he'll like just spin dash the fuck out of an egg pawn. Like,
well, especially since the egg pawns are like universally known to like have personalities, like the whole
and
joke
show fear.
Yeah, like
fear
they show
death.
fear. Well, I mean, also like in like colors, they like do little dances and stuff.
Yeah.
I think you're not supposed to think about it. But yeah, I mean, I would just say that it's the real answer is Metal Sonic is a named character, and those are enemy characters that you blow up in the game, so don't think about it. But if we want an in-universe reason, I would say is that Sonic is kind of stupid and an asshole, so he probably doesn't consider these things.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, so like you said, Tails makes the thing so they can talk now, like the non-talking ones can talk. And one thing we see is that Mecha keeps like spazzing out. Like his head keeps like sparking and he keeps like twitching. Yeah. Do we get like an explanation for what that is?
He's just damaged, I think, is the idea.
Okay.
Also, or he might actually no, you know what it is? It's probably that he's tweaking out because he's seeing Sonic, and we have that scene where he's like remembering like his programming of like kill Sonic, kill that bitch, do it, murder him. And then we have the you have the Knuckles one, right? Who he attacks later, and that's because he has programmed to kill Sonic. So I would assume it's just that, where it's like there's just tiny little glitches. There's a little something in the back of his mind that is telling him like kill, kill, kill. And if it's not that, then I think it's fine if it's just kind of like he's just kind of busted up, and it's something as simple as like it is symbolically showing that this internal struggle is happening within him.
Yes, fair enough. But yeah, so we find out that the plane's got its generator is it's fucked. It's in technical terms. So they have to go. Ian, not even a pity laugh, really.
Sorry,
that was funny.
A text.
Damn it, Ian.
Anyway, continue.
So the engine's fucked. They got to go get a new one. And I hate you. But so they gotta get a new one. I think there's a new one in the Death Egg. So Sigma and Sonic and Mecha Sonic are gonna go get it. And on the way they pass a flower in a bubble that Sonic saw earlier. And they were like, and Sigma's like, yeah, this flower was here, and so Mecha Sonic's been taking care of it. So hopefully when we leave this place, he can plant it on real soil.
Yes.
And yeah, Sonic's like, "Oh, you're a good guy, aren't you?" And then Mecha Sonic's like, "No, die." But he doesn't say that because he can't talk.
They
And then
can't suck. It's true.
yeah, and then we see the egg carrier. Like, here's the thing, right? Is like a lot of the references in the main book like kind of fall on deaf ears for me. I don't know why, but a lot of the stuff in this works where it's like, oh, that's the boss from Sonic 3, or oh, that's the egg carrier, oh, that's Mecha
Well,
Knuckles from
I think it's
Advance.
because
Like,
it's actually tied into the setting. So one of the things that goes a long way, obviously, like one of the reasons, like I'm not clapping or whatever, like a seal, whenever I see like, oh, look, it's the Sonic Heroes Egg Fleet boss or mini boss or whatever from, whenever they're escaping the city. The reason I don't care is because it doesn't mean anything. It could be anything, right? It doesn't add to like the environment or the idea. It's just like, whoa, it's that thing, and then they kill it. But this whole arc obviously has a very pointed idea of like old Eggman stuff being thrown out. And so to add to that vibe, you want to sell the idea of like, why does Metal Sonic or Mecha Sonic feel this way? And he is literally surrounded by just pieces of Eggman tech that has been thrown out, which is going to be very integral to his character. So I think it works in that sense because not only is it cool fan service, obviously, but it is creating a tone of like the dreariness and like the despair of like, yep, I'm just surrounded by things that Eggman has thrown away, and then obviously contrasting that with the Scrapniks who have decided to find a life in beyond that, while Mecha Sonic is still tied to it. So yeah, I think that's why it works really well.
yes, that's a good point. I think also it's because, like you said, it's tied into the setting, so like you feel rewarded for like seeing it as opposed to just like this is here because it's a thing from the games, Like,
well, because you're thinking in your head like, oh, shouldn't that? Oh, it is there,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then we get the scene where Sonic's like, it's a little too wordy, but like I think it gets the point across where he's like, hey, you know what? Like, Mecha, you're doing good. We're cool. Like, shake my hand. And the Mecha goes to shake his hand, but then they get attacked by Mecha Knuckles. So there's a big cool fight. Looks cool. So like Sigma gets laid out. And yeah, not much to say about a lot of it until we get to the big part with Mecha. Just really cool, really pretty. But eventually Mecha gets slugged across the head, and that triggers his robot PTSD.
Yes, and he goes, oh fuck, 010. Oh
no. Well, it's interesting. So earlier in the when he's looking at the flower, Sonic says something effective like, oh, you look all scary, but you're actually a big softie, aren't you? Or like something like that. But the words get scrambled in his brain. So he's like, oh, you might look scary, but you're actually trash. Like, and I'm gonna bash your brains in or whatever. And he keeps like flickering between like Sonic and Knuckles.
Yeah, no, it's a really striking scene. Like the art really goes crazy.
Oh, it's great.
And they even have a few sections where I think like the panels kind of melt into each other. And then like the red of like kind of the red obviously representing like his dark side kind of like encompasses and envelops him. It's really good. Like it's really striking. And then like you said, it's kind of showing both of the fights. And yeah, there's just just really, really great visual storytelling. Like well done.
Yes, and we see like his creation, or like we see like a visualization of his creation. I assume Eggman wasn't like a black glitchy monster when he was made, but you never know.
It's just everyone saying over and over, cringe, cringe, cringe. He's like, I'm not fucking cringe.
But like basically like this is kind of the first glimpse we see at like Mecha's like thing where he's like, I was supposed to be Metal Sonic. It was supposed to be me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so then Mecha destroys Mecha. This is gonna get confusing. Mecha Sonic destroys Mecha Knuckles, and then Mecha Sonic attacks Sonic, and that is where the issue ends.
I will say I do think it sucks that Mecha Knuckles is just done.
Yeah,
he's literally just like around, and it's like, whoa, what's that guy? I wonder what he's gonna do. And then he fights, and it's like, oh shit, he's fighting, and it's like, whoa, he's dead. Oh. Well, dang.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's not terrible. But I do think like we're kind of pointing out that there's a lot of good here, but I do think like it's one of those stories where I think unlike with a lot of the main book where I'm constantly either like frustrated or just kind of bored, I think Daniel Barnes so far, and we'll get to more positives too. But he's kind of striking this middle ground of like there's parts I really like, and then it's less of parts I don't like, but more of like, darn, I wish you would have done a little more with that, But obviously this is like his first story, so like I'm giving a lot of props that he's even like having all these ideas in the first place and like kind of hitting on them so well. So it's just one of those things where like midway through the story, I'm like, okay, there's some good, there's kind of some missed potential, but where's this going to go from here? So that's kind of where I was at this point in the narrative.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, here's the thing. Me and Daniel Barnes are kindred spirits in a way, because I remember in my earliest days in the Sonic fandom, a big idea I had was like, what if they made Mecha Sonic like the main villain of a new Sonic game?
Yeah, because he's rad.
Yeah. Well, first of all, he's rad, and second of all, like he has like chaos powers in that game. So like he's clearly like a lot more advanced in that regard. So like you have a cool scene in a game where like he shows up to Eggman's base. He's like, "Hey, motherfucker, I'm back." And he like pulls a Metal Overlord and like takes over everything. And he's just like the main villain of a Sonic game. Like that'd be awesome. Yeah. And clearly Daniel Barnes agreed because he made Mecha the main antagonist.
I mean, he's basically the main character of the arc, as we'll see.
He's basically the main character. But like, yeah,
which is crazy. So like, mad props.
Yeah, it's great. It is great. But yeah, so cutting into issue 3. I mean, they don't reveal this until the end of the issue, but it's pretty obvious from the setup, so I'll say it now. Mecha's trying to pull a superior Spider-Man. He's trying to put his robot consciousness into Sonic's body so he can get the fuck out.
Yeah, so he can go to high school and kiss girls. So
that what?
That's what Doc Ock does, right? Oh, no, wait, Peter's an adult at that point, so it's fine.
No, you're thinking of the Wolverine, the story where he swaps brains with Wolverines, where he's in high school and kisses girls.
Right, we figured it out. There we go. Yeah. Perfect. All right. Mecha would never.
Yeah. Yeah. No. I hope not.
But yeah, they're gonna swap brains, or at the very least, he's going to take his body. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know if Sonic gets anything out of it.
I don't think there's gonna be much swapping happening.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
and then Sonic, is this the issue that starts with Sonic being like, this whole like giving people a second chance and then betraying me is getting pretty old? And I go, I agree, Daniel Barnes.
Yeah, that's the first line. I don't know how I feel about that line. It feels a little on the nose, but
oh, it's definitely on the nose. It's more so I just agree. I think it's yeah. I'm just like, you know what? If I had the chance to write a Sonic comic, I would also bitch about Ian Flynn in it.
Oh.
Again, I kid. He's my favorite Sonic writer, but I love poking fun at him.
Yeah, but yeah. So Mecha's got him hooked up to this, and meanwhile, another Backnik shows up and is like, "Oh fuck!" So he runs off to tell the others, and then we get a flashback of Mecha being rebuilt by Sigma. He's having a jolly old time, and then Sigma wakes up from being What happened to Sigma? I guess is the question.
Well, he got decked by Knuckles, right?
Yes, but what I mean is like in the most literal sense. Like if he got like his shit rocked, like he's a robot. I guess he probably has like a self-repair.
He blooped out. He blue screened and he reset.
I guess. But if I punch a hole in my computer, it doesn't just reset.
And that's broken. Why your computer isn't an Eggman war machine, all right?
You know what?
Cringe.
Fair enough.
Cringe, Mecha Sonic.
Is this your new thing? What is this?
I just like mocking Mecha Sonic. I think it's funny. He's like a nerd.
Fair enough. But Mecha Sonic didn't even do this. It was Mecha Knuckles.
You know what? You know what it is? This is the true sign that like Mecha Sonic's a good character, because with Surgeon Kit, I can't even like mock them because I would just feel like I'm punching a puppy. Whereas like Mecha Sonic, like he can handle it, So like I can bully him to my heart's content.
Yep. But yeah, so Sigma he picks up Mecha Knuckles, and then the other Backnik comes back and he goes to Tails and he's like, Sonic's in trouble. So Tails has like a cool like gearing up scene where he puts on his like Dragon Ball Scouter and grabs a gun.
And he's like, I'm never gonna use this, but it'll look cool.
It'll look cool. And so we get like a horror movie scene.
Yeah, this is where they lean into the horror again, which I appreciate.
It's great. Where they're like going through and they literally have a thing where it's like, it's on top of us, because the thing goes like blip, 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 blip. And then we get one of the coolest things that's ever happened in a Sonic thing ever, which is when the thing is freaking out. And we start to hear Mecha's like thoughts from the thing,
which is a great idea.
And then he goes, behind you. And they all just like unload on him.
And they just unload a clip, and Tails is like, I've seen this before. Murder. Do it. Yeah, it's really cool.
And they do this thing where it's like really cool for the first thing, but it's good that they didn't continue it because it probably would have gotten annoying. Where like for the first time he speaks, he's like, his speech is really like drawn out, like he's remembering how to talk.
Yeah.
But then he just pretty much talks normally for the rest of it, which again I think works.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it just looks dope, and he's like bouncing around. He takes the Miles Electric.
I really love the use of like yellow.
Oh yeah,
to like show like the different sides clashing. It's great. Like again, the coloring. Like I know people will immediately say like, oh, the art. It's like no. I don't think you understand. It's the coloring. The coloring is incredible.
Yeah, I know it's spectacular. Like this whole sequence. Like I have 2 notes for this issue, and it's like it's just because it's fucking cool. Like it's just like
whoa,
Ian.
I haven't brought it back in a while.
You haven't. But yeah. So he takes the thing. And he's like, and he throws Tails in the garbage.
Yeah, and he's like, "How do you like being cringe?" And he's like, "I've been cringe forever." And he falls.
Damn it. Yeah, and then he's like, "Yep, I'm gonna Superior Spider-Man you," and then the issue ends.
Yep, and that's that. So yeah, that one's just kind of the big action scene. I will say, so another example of like, here's all the good. Now I got to go to the missed potential, which is that, all right, that was really cool. Tails was like, I'm gonna do something, and then he doesn't for the rest of the story. So, he does get one moment later, but it's less of like a character moment, and just like, oh yeah, Tails is around. That's good. Like so it is one of those things where I feel like I feel like they could have given Tails maybe more of a subplot in the story rather than just kind of being there to do like Tails things, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But that's fine. It's not terrible or anything. It's just one of those things where it's like, again, because the story is so good, I'm looking at all these other things and being like, oh man, I hope he kind of leans into these strengths next time he gets to write. But yeah, so that's the third issue.
Yeah. And then issue 4 starts, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna put my robot brain in your head, and it's gonna be super cool."
And your hog bod.
Yeah. Yep. But we find out this started as something for Eggman to control his robots telepathically. Which, first of all, why?
Because, well, I mean, what's he gonna put in them? Little animals?
I mean,
no.
Yes.
I don't think he does that this time. I honestly, at this point, since like a lot of that stuff is like classic, I wonder if like the idea is that he doesn't do that.
I mean, it happened. They do it in Lost World.
But Lost World's bad.
Yeah, but they keep bringing back Zavok. So
you're right. Never mind. So yeah, no. I guess it's just Eggman just being like, oh, is there other ways I could do this? So yeah, that makes sense to me.
Yeah, but so this actually might be.
Although to be fair, I do like the idea that like. Because I don't know if they clarify that Mecha Sonic upgraded it to do the mind swap, because this implies that Eggman, like if this were to work, it'd be like you going through Green Hill Zone, and then Eggman's like, oh, like Sonic's in Green Hill. He'd be like, okay, let me hook up, and then he like his eyes would see out of a Motobug. He's like, okay, grabs his controller, and he's like, all right, Motobug has like up down a little booster, and it's like you would just be like teleporting into the mind of a Motobug.
Yeah, I thought you were going with the idea of like. He just grabbed this thing that like is vaguely related to what he wants to do. And he's like, it probably will do this too, right? Like he didn't modify it in any way.
It's a good idea.
That's my headcanon. But yeah. So and we get we get a back and forth between Mecha and Sonic, where he's like, look, man, like you were doing good. Like, come on, this isn't you. And he's like. And we get a lot of interesting dialogue from Mecha, where he's like, I was like thrown out in the trash. Like me and Eggman were supposed to rule the world together, but like he never came back for me. So like I'm gonna take your body and I'm gonna go run to him, and like he'll never forget me again. And I tell you what, like
yeah, I'll show him who's cringe. It won't be me. And then and yeah, I mean it's a decent plan. What are you laughing about?
Is this our like new Eclipse crashing planes?
Well, I think what it is that his whole thing is that he's trash, and just as you were describing the scene where that happens, where he's like, I'm trash, I was like, yeah, I'm cringe. So that's just that's what he is now.
Oh my God,
it's Eggman. He's not like, you're trash, nerd. He's like, you're cringe, idiot. And he's like, I'm not cringe.
Can someone please write me some Mecha Sonic X Eclipse fan fiction? Pretty please. Like,
you'd be like, what are you doing, you cringe boy?
Why do you remember the voice?
Because it's my stupid Antoine voice.
You remember like basically nothing from any of our recording sessions, but that you remember.
I only remember useless information. All right.
Anyway.
Whoa.
Fuck.
Anyway.
So Mecha switches on the machine to put his brain in Sonic's brain. But then the Backniks come in, they blow it up. But again, I like the idea it wouldn't have worked anyway. But fuck. No, it links their brains. So it did do something. Damn it.
Yeah.
I like the idea that like if he would have just turned it on, it would have just run. And it would have just like turned off and he would have been like,
well, that's Sonic. He was like, well, that was embarrassing. And then Sonic would have been like, whoa, dude. Like, big oof.
Sonic's like, do you want me to just like smash you and like say I defeated you?
Yeah, like just get it over with, man. I'll take your flower home, water it.
Like spare you the like. I'll just say that like I beat you and like you fought valiantly. Like it's getting depressing. Anyway, yeah. So they fight and there's the I'll crush you, which I'm told is a reference to something.
Yeah, it's a reference to like Sonic and Mario DBZ or whatever it's called. It's like Super Mario Bros. Z. There you go.
Right. But yeah, so then Sonic's like, what the fuck? And then he starts hearing Mecha's thoughts in his head. And so yeah, they're running, they're fighting, they have a run fight. And they have an interesting bit where he's like, look, man, the last time we fought, you beat me, but I kneecapped you. So you're I also love the like at this point Mecha Sonic will just like take what he can get. Like he'll beat someone. He's like gonna treasure defeating someone who's like literally running on one foot. Like,
oh yeah. Well, and also there's the cool idea of like he's like, haha, nerd, I'm better than you, and then Sonic is like he starts running with like they continue to use the brace as like a symbol of like Sonic being held back, which obviously Mecha is being held back emotionally. And so it's like, oh, like Sonic, you're in this weakened state. You're not going to be able to take it. And then Sonic is still able to fight even with like, because like they do a good job of showing like it does hurt him. Like even while as he's running, like every step hurts. And so it's kind of like, again, just like showing that like Sonic has the strength to keep moving, you know?
Yes. Yes. And they do the limit scene from Archie, but with a twist.
Yes.
Where he's like, you've reached your limit, Sonic, and he's like, the thing about limits is that they're meant to be broken.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, not quite as iconic, but still cool.
Yeah. Well, I mean, also then they have that really cool little scene of like them circling the like trash compactor. You can see Woody and Buzz in the bottom right. They're like, help.
Yeah.
and they're like, yeah, they're fighting, and it's pretty cool. Like I like it.
How bad is it that I thought you were serious for a second? Like I thought that was like an Easter egg in the comic.
And you believed me.
For like a split second before I realized you were making a joke, I was like, really?
Really interesting. Oh, quite a callback to a classic Sonic moment.
Yeah. But yeah, also one thing I noticed is that like in this book, there's a lot of just like action. Like there's a lot of just like cool, like just look at some cool pictures for a bit.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking about like, imagine if Penders wrote this.
They would not stop talking.
This scene of them like circling the trash compactor, Sonic could be like, I see that my robotic double has reached his limit, but I've also reached my limit, so I have to get him into this, but I also don't know if I want to kill him. So
yeah, it would be one of those things where like he would put some narration of like Sonic realized in that moment that the Sonic inside him was the Sonic inside Mecha Sonic, but Mecha Sonic didn't know that being cringe is the way to go, yo. And he'd be like, wow, that's really great. And then like Vector would be like, fucking finish him! And, you know, it'd be a whole thing. That would be too cool. That's not something Penders would write. Never mind. This bit's worse. Keep going. What happens next?
But yeah, so then Sonic kicks Mecha in the face and breaks the brace, and it's cool. There's a bit
I mean, well, and also that's another really good visual, obviously, of Sonic breaking through his limit, literally, by smashing it across Mecha Sonic's face and being like, "Yeah, idiot, eat it," you know?
Yeah.
Which is really good. Again, and it's a really good visual, and it's visual storytelling. This is what I want. I want items in stories or like characters, and I want there to be like depth and meaning. Thank you, Daniel Barnes. You did it.
Yes. Yes. And he's like, "Yeah, grab my hand, Mecha," and he's like, "Nah, I'm trash. Like, just leave me. I'm cringe."
Thank you. That's what happened.
Dude, the audience is not going to respond to this bit.
He was so mad.
Anyway, but Sonic's like, just take my hand. Like, come on. It's a nice scene where he's like, you give yourself purpose. Like, you're not trash. Like, you gotta live for you, and you gotta figure out what you want to live for. So, like, just take my fucking hand.
Well, it's a good moment of like Sonic's aggressive nature that doesn't get to be shown a lot, because it's like again, he's like kind of wallowing. And so it's a good example of like Sonic just being like, no, cut it out, right? You know, like which I always really like those in stories, and that's obviously a big thing in a lot of shonen stories as well. And so definitely like Daniel is taking a lot of cues from kind of the ways in which those stories would often depict like redemptions and like characters kind of reaching out, which is really cool, which is often through violence and yelling, which is what young boys want to see. Fuck yeah. So so it's cool. It's really good. And then also, I'm trying to go ahead.
We know that Sonic has a history of yelling aggressively at suicidal people. So
absolutely, but this time it worked. Hooray!
Yeah, well, it worked the other time too. I'm thinking of Gawain from Black Knight.
Oh, I was thinking of Surge.
Oh, she wasn't suicidal. She wanted to kill everyone else.
True.
But yeah, so then he takes his hand and he pulls him out of the garbage, but he's also cringe. So he's not able
Tails
to do it.
Goes, you know who's not cringe anymore? Me, and he saves Sonic, and it's nice.
Yeah, that was my whole arc in Frontiers, I think.
I think he let go. He lets go. He was an existential crisis.
Have you ever seen that other?
There's like Tails, fly.
Have you ever seen that video of the scene from Frontiers where it's this episode's going off the rails? Where it's the scene from Frontiers where Tails goes like, "Sonic, am I a burden to you?" And Sonic just goes, "Yes," and then they keep walking. Oh God. Anyway,
they save them. And then what happens?
And then Sonic cries, and Tails is like, "Sonic, you're not Sega mandated.
You're not
allowed to do that. What's going on?" And he's like, "Don't worry, it's not my tears," which is I really like that moment.
Yeah, well, and again, that's an example of like, yes, they like took really good advantage of the items and the things set up, and obviously just even the idea of like Sonic and like just having a Mecha Sonic in general has just a bunch of implications, obviously, of the idea of like, you know, it's Sonic but a robot. You know, it's all these different parallels you could just intrinsically see, and so by adding this idea of like their brains even connecting, that's bringing Sonic even closer to that. And so the idea of like, you know, a robot wouldn't be able to cry, at least not in this kind of world. And so the idea of him crying through Sonic, it's kind of like they're able to share that. They're able to basically like share a moment together and share a bond. And like Mecha Sonic is able to see Sonic in a way that is like good. Like they're able to share something in a positive way. Where usually a Metal Sonic is trying to be like, the things we share make us either different or make me superior. So it's really good.
Yes, I agree. And I also love how Sigma goes like, "Your forgiveness is requested, Mecha. This unit was unaware of your inner turmoil." It's like Sigma's just such a good fucking guy, man.
Yeah. And you know, if Pender's writing it, he'd be very British.
Yeah, he would be very British.
You're like, I should have gotten you 2 spots of tea.
Yep. But so they're like, but Tails is like, "I removed all the Eggman programming from all of you. Like, you're all good. We're leaving though and never coming back. So bye." And then they, I just thought about that reading this, like talking this over. Is like, wasn't the whole point that they wanted to like leave this island? Like, wouldn't?
Yeah.
Are so that's sorry. Go on.
That's where I wonder if like this is like a Sega thing where they're like, yeah, you can use him or whatever, and then he's like, yeah, and then they'll like leave the island and like, you know, we'll like finish the arc, and they're like, huh? What do you mean? So yeah, I do think like, and I will say also, this is where like I've been praising like a few of the things, but I do think one of the ways in which this arc kind of like doesn't use a symbol in a way that I think would have been valuable is the flower. Because you have like the flower in the jar, and then obviously it's kind of like separate from, you know, the environment. It's not really made to be here. And by the end, it just kind of ends up being that, yeah, it's like in the end, he gets to have his flower, and the flower is basically just like hope. And I feel like they could have used that a little more, but I feel like you could have also maybe used it like Sonic goes and plants the flower. So maybe like Mecha is like, you know, I will come eventually, but I have to like take care of something here. But Sonic, I want you to like carry this forward. Just any way to like actually have them get off the island, because I do agree. It's just kind of like, well, are you going to leave the island like you want to? No. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You know, like it kind of feels a little not anticlimactic, but just like emotionally not doesn't hit, in that way, which is unfortunate.
Tis indeed, but hey, overall, that's pretty good.
Yeah, pretty good.
I mean, here's the thing, right? It'd be very easy for me to say like, see, that's how you do it, IDW, but like that's not a fair comparison. Where it's like, they got to churn out one issue on a monthly basis, and they have to keep coming up with ideas. It can't be as like well crafted as like one self-contained 4-issue miniseries. But
yeah, like in all seriousness, like on it, like just on its own and for what he's doing. One, I do think he does deserve credit for building off of what the previous writers have set up. Like it is very good that Sonic finally does, save someone, but that had to come from a place of like him looking at everything that came before and being like, not only am I going to have like this little like kind of episodic adventure, but I'm going to tie it into something that's valuable about Sonic. And that's really good. That's like a really good thing you want to do. You want to build on what came before, so it does feel like it takes place in the same universe. So yeah, just shout out to Daniel Barnes. I really hope he gets to work on more, because I think this came out in like 2022 maybe, and he hasn't really done anything major since. But he did tease on Twitter that is probably changing. So
couldn't have been that long ago, right?
When did Scrapnik come out?
I hope not 2022. That was 2 years ago.
Maybe it was like 2023, like early.
Issue 1, October. Oh god, October 2020. Okay, so late 2022, but yeah, 2022.
That's not good.
No, it's not.
But yeah, but you know what was good? I would say this story. Good job.
I would indeed. It might be my favorite thing that IDW's done. I'm trying to think. I mean, I have my biases. Victory Garden gave me some cute Silver and Blaze stuff. I got to see Super Silver for the first time in like a million years, so that was also cool. But in terms of like story and like following a plot from beginning, middle, end, I think it's pretty handedly this.
Yeah, I would say so. And yeah, great work. Yeah, I'm trying to think of anything else for it, but no, I think that's probably it for Scrapnik. And then we have one more story.
How did we talk about this for almost an hour? I was so certain this was going to take like 30 minutes.
Well, there you go.
Well, anyway, moving on to Sonic the Hedgehog's 30th anniversary one-shot from IDW. This we know came out 2 years ago. Wait, no, probably 3 years ago. God, fuck. Stop. And dude, my birthday's on Tuesday. Like, I don't need any more reminders of the passage of time.
True.
But anyway, so it's we open in Spring Valley Zone. The first story is called Seasons of Change. Sonic, Tails, and Amy run across a Chaos Emerald. And there's a fun recurring bit in this where Sonic keeps going like, oh, hey, like Metal Sonic keeps showing up, and Sonic keeps going like, oh, yeah, let's fight. And Metal keeps like running away.
Yeah. Well, and like, and he's just like, why? Cringe. So,
yeah.
He's building up a resistance. Fighting back.
The Mecha Sonic was cringe. We can't be mixing our character things.
True. I do want that to be his thing. So we'll leave it at that. I'll find a new stupid fucking meme for this story. Anyway,
Please.
Continue.
But yeah, I should also say I love the cover. It's very reminiscent of the Sonic Archives covers.
Yeah, and it's Spaz.
Yep, and he's great.
Yep.
Actually, who drew the interiors for this? Because it looks, I mean, they really capture the art style of It doesn't quite. It captures the feel of Sonic Mania, even though it doesn't exactly look like Sonic Mania. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
I think the colors also really help with that. But
well, I mean, just out of the box, I just want to throw this out there. So this is just like my favorite story in all of IDW. It is a blast, kind of from start to finish. It is so funny.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think like this story in particular, just this whole one shot.
This story in particular in the anniversary.
I see. I don't know if I'd say. I mean, again, it's been so long since I've read so much of IDW, but like it's definitely up there.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think Scrapnik probably takes it for me just a little more, but I don't know.
I mean, that one's definitely going for something more, whereas this one's just trying to be fun.
Yeah.
So if you really vibe with Scrapnik and like kind of its message and its idea, then I could see that being like really, really impactful. You know.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. It's also like I think I've even said this on the podcast before, where it's like this like read, because I think I'd read this issue before. It proves that like IDW works best when it's just trying to do like fun, self-contained stories. But again, like I do have to give them some slack in the sense that like it's hard to do that. It's hard to come up with a fun, self-contained story on a monthly basis, for a monthly comic. So whatevs. But this is very fun. So they try to chase after Metal Sonic, and then Knuckles shows up. And we find out that Metal Knuckles attacked him. And they fight, and then there's a very funny visual where Metal Knuckles cuts down a mushroom, like a big mushroom in Mushroom Hill Zone, and it's gonna fall on some flickies. And so there's this shot of Knuckles like fucking Superman picking up a car, but it's him holding up a big mushroom. It's very fun. Yeah, and so then they all run off and they leave Amy behind. And I will say Amy is adorable in this story.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I mean, everyone's adorable, but they give her like a lot of fun stuff. Then she runs into Mighty and Ray, which is, hey, it's Mighty and Ray.
Yeah, I'm glad that they're just back now. They just get to exist. It is crazy to think that for like 15 years or like 20 years, they were just, they were just dead in that bar. And now they're back. So,
woof.
If anyone remembers Some Call Me Johnny's animated video where he interviews Sonic characters, you will know that reference. Because the reference is always that he interviews all the characters, and then it just cuts to Mighty, and he's in a bar, and Knuckles just pops up. He's like, Mighty, he's talking to you. and he just goes, sorry about him. He just hasn't got any work in a while.
Oh, no.
And now he's employed, so it's all good.
Did I ever tell you I had a couple different headcanons for like Mighty and Ray and some of the other like characters we don't see anymore?
Oh, really?
Well, I have two headcanons. One is that there's I remember the Sonic like social media ages ago. They did a post where someone was like, why is Knuckles not guard the Master Emerald anymore? And they went like, there's another tough red hero who he has guarded for him when he's away, like wink wink nudge nudge. And so I was like, okay, I guess that's as good as we're gonna get in terms of what Mighty's doing nowadays. My other is that they all died during Sonic Forces.
Well, there you go. I like that one.
Yeah, during that 6-month time gap where Eggman took over the world, there's just like a pile of like Honey the Cat and like
while they were in the bar.
They were all in the bar.
Oh boy.
But yeah, so Amy runs into Mighty and Ray, and these three form a team, and they go off to find some more emeralds because Tails left behind his emerald radar. And it's cool. These three make a fun team.
Yeah, for sure.
And yeah, I'm struggling to say things about this that isn't just kind of like summarizing the story.
I think that's like, we've already done this for a pretty good amount of time. This is just a fun story. So I think what we should more so do is just give overview thoughts, because it's not like there's not like a story to be told. It's just character interaction. I mean, the overarching story is just that they're trying to figure out where all these emeralds are. And then they figure out that the hardboil heavies have betrayed Eggman, and now they got to stop them. And that's it. And then they do,
Yeah. Well, and I sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you go ahead.
It's a very good companion to Sonic Mania. Like if you were just to like play Sonic Mania Plus and then immediately like roll into reading this, it's like, oh hey, this is what happened next. Like,
yeah, I mean, I think what really works about it for me is one of the big things that I always critique the main series for is the paneling. And I think for this, what it does really, really well is it's just so snappy. Like every single like panel and like joke just kind of like goes into the other. Like you're just flying through the story. And this is where I gotta give like so much props to Flynn, because it really feels like he is like pulling into like one of his strengths that I don't think people give him enough credit for, which is that he's a really funny guy. Like a lot of the wit, especially like for Archie Sonic, like that has to come from him. And I just feel like a lot of the jokes in this, I'm just like consistently laughing. Whether it's like the physical humor or like I love the one where it's like they're talking to like Bean shows up and he's like, hey Sonic, you miss me? He's like, no. And he goes, oh, well then I'm not gonna miss you. you know?
Yeah. I mean, like, some of Flynn's stuff, it was some of the hardest I've laughed at like comics. Granted, I don't really read comedy comics, so that's probably why. But
I guess if anything, that says how good he is at it, because obviously the Sonic comics aren't comedies, Yeah. So that because the I would even say that this story is not meant to be a comedy per se. It's just supposed to be light and fun, but it being light and fun is just really good. Like I really like the scene where It's like just a bunch of wordplay on like the idea of like Heavy King is talking to Eggman, and it's like, Heavy King, go after them. It's like, sorry, sir, like this was broken or whatever. It's like, okay, do this. Sorry, sir, blah blah blah. He's like, oh, fine. Heavy King, make me like a grilled cheese sandwich, and he goes, sorry, sir, I am not Heavy Chef. And it's like, there's a bunch of little jokes like that, and then obviously you get the hooligans in there, you get all the mecha characters. There's like, I always love a good scream gag. So like there's the part where they're just sitting on the Eggmobile and there's like, all right, we gotta hack into there, and it's like Eggman and Tails, and then the Tails doll just shows them, they go ah, and they start screaming. and then they grab it by the neck and they're like, what the fuck is this thing? So yeah, I just think the whole story, like the reason I really like it is just basically just like 30 to 40 pages of just pure, just like I got a big smile on my face. And that's really valuable, especially since like all the characters have like a lot of just a ton of personality. They all bounce off each other really well. And the art just looks pretty gorgeous. So I really love it. And I think it's like one of those things where if I were to like recommend this to someone, I think like this could actually get you into Sonic and also just be valuable to a current Sonic fan, because it feels like it just has so much joy. And so I really, really like it. So shout out to Flynn and shout out to Daniel Barnes. You both did really good this month, as if like we're doing this on time.
I guess just to give a very brief rundown, they're looking for emeralds. They keep running into different characters. Eventually, all the characters converge on Eggman's base, and Eggman teams up with them, and they all beat the Heavy King, and then they all run away. The end. Yeah. Just to point out some standout moments, there's a bit where they're running through the forest, and Knuckles goes, darn, I lost their trail. I can't see through the forest for the trees. And Sonic goes, what's adorable is I know he didn't do that on purpose.
I know he didn't do that on purpose. Yeah. That one's good. I also love like it's kind of like, it's not even meant to be a funny moment. It just makes me laugh, which is the part where they shoot Mighty in the back with a little pop gun, and he just goes, excuse you? It's like, oh shit.
Yeah, that's really fun. There's a bit with Knuckles and Bark fighting where they're like super speed punching each other, and then they like punch one another in the face, and it's like it's just pretty cool.
That one's good. I like the joke where they knock the emerald off of the cliff, and they're like, oh well, we'll come get it later or whatever, and then you just see it in the bottom right of like the page, and it's like sitting there, and then they like pan down basically in the next panel, it landed on Mighty's head, and he's just like, they're falling from the sky now, and they're like, yeah, we did it. We found one.
Like, don't question it.
Yeah.
One thing I'm not super fond of is that they seem to be like, well, Fang and Bean and Bark aren't like a team. Like these three are just like teaming up for like this occasion. So like he keeps calling Fang. Yeah, he keeps calling Fang not Fang. Fang keeps calling Bean Bomb Mook, and he calls Bark Scarf Mook. It's like, just call them their names. Like this, I don't know. Although what's interesting is that this came out a good couple years before Fang's big resurgence last year, so that's fun.
Well, I also love that this is a great insult. I need more Sonic villains to do this. I love that he calls Tails double butt. That's really good.
That's funny.
So yeah, no, I mean, like I said, the whole thing just makes me smile. It's just very goofy. Yeah. And it really feels like Flynn just kind of like just letting letting himself have fun. So.
Yeah, and then as always, I read Fang with a thick Southern drawl, but
Fang.
Yeah, and then one last little detail is that Bark in this. So Ian, you mentioned a long time ago that there's like a mandate with Bark, or like his official like character, like whatever, is that he's not a bad guy, but he hangs out with bad guys.
Bad people.
So like there's a scene where Amy is like, oh, those two are bad guys, or those guys are bad guys, except for Bark. I think he just hangs out with bad people.
And like, yeah, it's like they just have to explicitly say it.
Yeah, and then
because it doesn't make any sense.
Well, first of all, it doesn't make any sense, but at least I will say, at least consistently throughout this, they do show him like at least being nice to Amy, which I guess isn't.
Yeah,
I guess which isn't saying much. It's just like, oh yeah, I didn't beat up the little girl. But he does give her his scarf, and she gives it back at the end. She's like, "You're not a bad guy," and he's like, "Oh."
He's like, "Yes, I am. Sega says so. Maybe if Sonic tried to redeem me, I wouldn't be." And it's like, Barky talk. He goes, "Oh yeah, sorry."
Yep. But yeah. not much more to say on that. And then we got the driving story where Sonic's just a chaotic little gremlin, and I love it.
Well, it's really good too because it feels like it has the energy and like the look of like the Japanese Sonic comic with like Nikki and stuff. Like I think it very clearly is trying to like be based on like that style. And it's really goofy and wacky, and I really like it.
Yeah, no, it's fun.
Like the way they write Sonic is cute, where he's just like, because I forget what's the driver's guy's name.
He's a capybara. Hold on. Fuck. Let me. I'm looking at it now. Oh, jeez. Go. So. Ian, help me look for this.
We'll call him Joe. Because the whole point is just like the way they write. So I don't think it's Flynn writing this story, or maybe it is, but it feels very distinct. Yeah, it feels very distinct, and I really like their way of Sonic, which is like he's like, Joe, can I call you Joe? I gotta get some stuff on my chest. Obviously, me, fastest thing alive, love driving around. Is that great? Of course it's great. But where do I put all my stuff, Joe? That's what I ask you, Joe. And he's like, fucking pay attention to the road. And I don't know. I just think like that's just a funny like interpretation of Sonic. Like, yeah, I'll tell you what, Joe. These. So it's just I like that. And then and then the final story is just a cute little the Badniks remembers Eggman's birthday, and I like it.
I think his name's Kip. I think I found it. But yeah, no, I really like I mean Sonic in this, like I understand that like it would probably get very exhausting if you were like this all the time, but I just love him in this where he's
it's
like,
good for this one.
Certainly, where he's like, now people always ask me, doesn't all that running get exhausting? And of course the answer is no. But he's like this.
And this is all while he's like driving and not paying attention to the road.
Yeah. Oh, and then there's the bit where he's like, Sonic, you're running a red light. Like, they're gonna, like, crash. And he's like, oh, don't worry, I got it. And so he jumps out of the car and, like Bugs Bunny, like, stops all the other cars.
Yeah, no, it really has, like, the energy of, like, just, like, a wacky, like, cartoon character. And I really like it for, like, this story. And then, like, by the end of it, like, the driver is like, you failed, but, like, we should go driving again sometime.
Yeah.
Because, like, he had a good time.
Yeah, and then there's, like, the bit where he's like, two words, Kip. One which is really long and drawn out for emphasis. Chili dogs.
It's like, what? It's great.
I love it. And then he gets a rank E, which is fun.
Yeah.
Not much more to say with that. And then at the end, they're like, all right, we're going to go drive off and fight Robotnik. And Kip is like, all right, step on it. And he puts on some cool sunglasses at the end.
Yeah.
And then it's Eggman's birthday. And for a second, I thought he had the lesbian flag behind him, but it's just an air vent. From a distance, it looks like it, though. Go look at the page. I'm not crazy.
I thought you said the Persian flag, and I was like, okay.
No.
Sure, sir, the Silver Ace. I don't know.
Go look at the page.
All right, let's see.
It's the first page, bottom left panel. Look above his head.
Yeah, that's a flag.
Well, no, it's an air vent, but from a distance, whatever. Anyway. So he's like,
does that mean like Eggman's into like toxic yaoi?
We'll say yes, so this conversation can end. Anyway,
literally just that I read it on Twitter. I was like, I'll mention this. I'll see how he reacts.
What? I'm still not regretting my decision to leave Twitter, gonna be honest. But yeah, so we find out that Eggman, very relatable, hates his birthday. And every year the Badniks try to like do cool stuff for his birthday. He's like, God damn, just stop. Just like, I don't care. And he goes around looking for him because he keeps thinking they're gonna like ambush him with a surprise party or whatever. And he sees that they all went to go try and destroy Robotnik as like a birthday, or not Robotnik, destroy Sonic as a birthday present. And he's like, oh no, like they're all going to get destroyed. Which again, when you characterize them this cute, it makes Sonic look like a monster. That's neither here nor there. And well, that's the thing, right? So he rushes out and he's like an angry parent where he's like, go back to base. Like, this is too dangerous. And then they, they're like, all right, well, bring out the cake. And he's like, oh, whatever. And then it ends. And I'll say, and I put this in my notes, it's like the Eggman like goofball angle is a lot more fun when he's not actively being Satan.
Yeah, like in the classic era, you buy that it's like Yeah, he's just like a troublemaker, you know?
Yeah.
Like when he puts animals in machine, like in the classic universe, you would buy like, I mean, because this has always been a thing in like the classic games. Like when you destroy the robots, like, you know, you could be in like a sky level and they'll like fall to earth, and it's like you're not supposed to assume they died, you know, or like they have trauma, or like they like, or like if you blow up a robot, like Sonic destroys them. It's like, no, it's supposed to just be like fun, like Eggman being a villain in the classic universe is supposed to be like not literal, if that makes sense. Like it is supposed to be something to where Sonic can just like use the magic of the emeralds and just bam, it's fixed, right? Or like he's putting animals into robots, but Sonic will fix that by destroying the robot, and then the animal's free and nothing bad happens, you know? It's supposed to like Sonic is supposed to represent the good and then Eggman the bad, but not in a way of like emotional damage, you know, if that makes sense. And that's just kind of something that a lot of the more Western material leans into, and obviously a lot of the later games. But yeah, that's something to where like I think it really works in that context, and that makes it more fun, you know, in like this classic universe.
Yes, I agree. But yeah, no, that was fun. That was a good jolly old time. One of these days we'll have an episode under an hour. Well, you guys don't want that.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's what they come here for.
Yeah, but
apparently all they do is watch it.
God, no.
If you don't know what this is referring to, we have now added visuals, as you have probably been seeing. And I am just not used to watching podcasts. I usually listen to them. So I'm very glad and thankful that Silver Ace, you actually are putting footage, because I do know that whenever I listen to gaming discussion videos, I do watch those. And obviously I much prefer watching them like either play the game in question or just play kind of like some indie game that I don't know about, because then like you kind of feel engaged with it, where like you're actually watching you succeed, and so you kind of get like little dopamine hits of like, oh yeah, is he gonna beat this level? So hey, the Silver Ace is putting a little bit of extra work into his videos because he's awesome. So thank the Silver Ace in the comments.
Thank you, Ian. But yeah, no, it's just again, like I said in that pinned comment, I think it makes it a little more new audience member friendly, because like I can imagine you click on something, it's just like one image. It's like when you're not familiar with like the podcast format, you're like, what the fuck? So yeah, it's just, and also like Sonic Frontiers makes it really easy because I can just like throw a character mod of whoever the focus character of the day is, and then just like play an island. Or this one's going to be difficult because there's not a lot of like Mecha Sonic mods for games. I think I found one for Mania that I'll probably put under this.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. So I'm doing that, and hopefully it gives you some. If you're locked in a box with nothing to do but listen to our podcast, you know, you also have something to look at now, I guess.
Yeah. Heck yeah, man. Well, hey, thanks for having me as usual.
Yep. Plug your shit.
I'm Ian Waffles. You can find me at Ian Waffles at YouTube and Twitter. Yeah, thanks as usual.
Yep, and I'm here. That's basically the only place I am now. I mean, you can tweet at me if you want. If you at me, I'll see it and I'll, talk to you or whatever. But yeah, yep. I might start doing a Tumblr soon. That might be
cool.
Fun. That's Tumblr has somehow become the less toxic of the social media platforms, amazingly.
Absolutely.
But yeah,
it's time to fix that.
No.
Bye.
Bye.